Welcome back to CS Mob. I am so incredibly excited to have Kamoh from A Mockery Cocktails here. They are an amazing canned cocktail that are non-alcoholic, and so I will let Kamoh introduce themselves and give us a little bit more overview of the product.
Awesome. Thanks, Allison. Hey guys, my name is Kamoh. My wife and I have been in Columbus for most of our lives. We live in the city. We love downtown. Love all of the different groups and areas in Columbus, and big fans of what folks are doing around the city. We launched A Mockery mocktails in 2024. This is our second year, and we're in about 30 to 40 bars and restaurants locally. Thanks for having me today.
Yeah, no, I am so excited because I am drinking a lot less, and so I love having non-alc options that taste good, and there are so many out there that are just sugar bombs. And I
Yes.
think you have done a really good job of crafting something that is both delicious and not just like Kool-Aid.
Yeah, no, I think we've done a really good job too. This idea kind of came from when my wife was pregnant with our first child, and we ordered basically every canned mocktail and bottled wine that was an NA all over the internet and in stores. And you have some that are very sweet, like juice, and you don't really feel like you're getting an actual like cocktail vibe. And then the other portion of that is then you have some that just taste like soda water and lemon juice. And often the canned mocktail space only has like a couple ingredients, and that's why you can find some of the canned mocktails that are out there are pretty cheap, around maybe $2.50 a can. Ours, we have anywhere from 12 to 14 ingredients per can, and they are on the sweeter side, but they have a very complex profile, and so I think we've done a really good job at making a really great option, a quick option if you want to feel like you're having a cocktail without the alcohol. So yeah, we're really excited about the product, and I think the community has been really happy with it as well. So yeah.
Yeah, and you're in bars and restaurants, and are you in any grocery stores around town?
We are, yeah. We're in Charmy's, and we're also in Littleton's as well. And yeah, so we're in those two spots. And I think our focus has been primarily bars and restaurants because we've been able to really increase revenue that way. And we also are a small company with a community focus, and so we don't want to be in a situation where we're in over our heads. I think often, small companies in the beverage space or foods and goods in general end up scaling too quickly and get into retail too quickly. And so, and that can leave beverage companies really at a loss for many years. And so, yeah, we're at our second year and we're basically breaking even, and it's been really fun our focus again as a community, and we've been raising money for different groups and organizations, and like that's been kind of driving our brand, and that's been fun too.
Yeah, so let's talk a little bit more about that because I think that's an interesting component of the business.
Yeah.
When you say community focus, is it like a percentage of your proceeds go to a nonprofit, or how are you leveraging that as part of your core business?
Yeah, so we basically look for like anywhere from I'd say 2 to 4 opportunities a year, where we can do some type of partnered events or raise money where we're giving away a percentage, like 50 cents or $1 per can sold. And our cost per can, I think we make a little over $1 a can, right? It's not much. It's the beverage industry, and so we try to give those cans discounted for different events and so forth. So yeah, we've raised money for Kaleidoscope, I think for Pride Month for last year. Every can sold for that month, and that includes any bars and restaurants who ordered from us from that month. We gave 50 cents a can. And then as a part of that like campaign and raising money for Kaleidoscope, we also we're Stonewall's premier mocktail provider, which is great. And so for Pride for that weekend, all those cans that were sold, 50 cents from those cans also went to Kaleidoscope. So we try to create opportunities like that, again, 2 to 4 times a year, where we can give anywhere from 2,000 to 4,000 a year to those organizations. And it's not a lot, but for a company that's like breaking even, it's what we want to contribute. And obviously, as we continue to hopefully see future years where we're profitable, we can raise that bar. But I think for us, we know that we're minorities. I'm a Black queer woman. It's really important that we raise money and awareness for groups that we know don't have the right access to programs and the same care that other folks do that have opportunities. My wife and I have been really grounded about that and intentional about that. And we don't just like try to get into any bars and restaurants. We want a brand alignment there. And so like obviously I'm not going to go to a bar where I know the owners are, massive Trump supporters or don't give or don't see the queer community as the same. And so like we are like intentional about who we work with and where we sell our products. And I think through the last couple years, those partnerships have really opened up like tremendous opportunity for us to collaborate with other groups around town and just kind of be a part of the community in general. So that's been wonderful for us.
Yeah, that's really amazing. Thank you. What background do you and your wife have to be like, we're going to start a can mockery?
We have no background in the beverage space. My background has typically been in cybersecurity, risk management, and then my wife, she was in the payroll space, and so I really had to learn the beverage industry overnight to be able to be successful. And I spent about 6 months to a year studying that industry before we launched to make sure I felt comfortable and being able to understand what like our needs were
Yeah.
from a manufacturing perspective and all that stuff. Yeah, the beverage industry is very archaic in general, which is also like a hurdle that we've had to overcome. A lot of the co-manufacturers are typically booked solid, and they have their customers are their minimums are in the hundreds of thousands, and so they don't really accommodate to small batch and small companies, and so we've had to be really creative about who we work with as a co-manufacturer, which we've leaned into smaller local breweries
Yeah.
as being the folks who make our cans and produce our drinks for us, which has been great. And so that's not a known thing in the beverage industry. And so obviously there's been some other small minority owned mocktail brands who have reached out to us just looking for advice. They're not in Columbus, they're kind of all over the US, and
Yeah.
we've been meeting with them and really just giving them all the advice that they can have to be successful, because it took us months to kind of figure out like how the co-manufacturing space would work and how we can make some changes to that model to work for us.
So you're like leading the industry because people are reaching out, right? I think that's my takeaway. That's what it sounds like to me.
Yeah, I mean, I think people reach out to us. Other small brands, I think, have reached out because they love our branding, right? And we're deliberate about our branding. We're fun. We're excited. We want the community to succeed. We want Black and brown people to have the same access to resources, and minorities have the same access to care. And so we're passionate people, and we want to do better for the world because we're like, why not? We all give our lives to 9-to-5s and to other corporations. Since we're little, we're taught that we have to do that. And so I think that like this concept of owning a business and what that looks like has to change in order to be successful. And I think you can't be successful as early as we have been without like really caring for your community and being intentional. And so, yeah, I think we've been an open book where I don't think other companies have. And I think that, yeah, spaces are archaic, but I've always been someone to kind of disrupt spaces to kind of shake things out differently. And so I think I've been successful in that space, and that's kind of helped us be further, I think, along than where most companies would be at our age, which has been great.
Yeah, no, I think that's really wonderful. And you can tell you have fun, like just from talking to you, but also your cans, like the art on
Yeah,
them is super fun. So
yeah,
if listeners haven't seen it, find a Mockery cocktail. They are sold at Stonewall, so you can come to a timeout Thursday.
that's right.
Um, and obviously bars around town. That's just the one place I know I've had them. But the cans
Yeah.
are fun.
Yeah, the cans are fun. April Tsunami, she's a local Black artist here in Columbus. She's done like some really cool campaigns for some breweries and their beers, and she's done some artwork for children's books, and she's kind of all over. So I think people, it's been great because people will see our cans and then they'll see that similar image and that look somewhere else and kind of say, "Oh, who is this artist? I want to learn more about her." And so, yeah, that was intentional, and I think her artwork kind of represents like where just it's a vibe that we kind of align with. So we love what she's done so far for our cans and that artwork.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, so what do you wish you knew when you started this that you've learned in the last 2 years of operating it?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think like for me anyways, there's not much, and maybe I didn't go looking hard enough, but I felt like I did. There's no playbook that tells you like what makes sense to spend early on. I
Oh,
think initially we went out and we got an SBA loan. And in the beverage industry, in that space in general, the minimums for ingredients and archaic are like so massive. You have to get like 6 massive barrels of agave syrup when you only need one, right? You got to pay for shipping costs. You have to pay for, gallons and gallons of different types of ingredients that like you won't
yeah.
even clear in a year. And so we went out for an SBA loan. We did 60,000. We thought we needed like 5-10,000 towards marketing. we needed $4,000 at a minimum just for our canned boxes for our customer orders on our website. But like we realize like all of our sales are bars and restaurants. Like we obviously have a website, we have a storefront. When people go to drinkamockery.com, they can order cans there, but we only have a couple orders a month. And so I think like not understanding like where to spend money has always been the challenge. And I think that's caused a lot of small companies to just have a hard time to like stay in the positive. I hear a lot of stories from other small minority owned entrepreneurs who are still putting 1,000 of their own money or 2,000 of their own money into the business account per month. And so I think like there needs to be some more, at least education or maybe some classes that really talk about like what can you do at a bare minimum? Are the things that you can pursue down the road? And had I known, like I probably would choose to spend that $10,000 for marketing now instead of back then, because we weren't a known company, and so like the marketing services that we paid for in the beginning, I think would do us further and do us better having done now instead of in the beginning. So things like that no one really talks about, and you obviously like you learn by trial and error. And we again, 60,000 is not a lot of money, but when you end up having to make a $700 $800 payment down the road after your interest has been deferred, it can like impact things for you. Obviously we're lucky enough, we do great in sales per month, and so we're able to cover that loan payment and pay our bills, but like a lot of companies aren't. And so I think that's just a learning experience for me, and I hope to like be able to share that knowledge with other new owners as well.
How are you working to share that? Is it just through like the informal network? Are you part of a very specific chamber? Like, what does that look like?
Yeah, I'm not. It's really just like having conversations. I'll hear some folks are like, oh, there's some entrepreneurs getting together here, or they meet. It was a group in Cincy with a few entrepreneurs in like the snack and food industry who had been a part of a free class in Columbus, who I had connected with. So we kind of just like word of mouth. And if anyone ever reaches out and asks any questions or is new, I try to tell them to like be easy on yourself, but also like you don't have to do everything all at once. Obviously, like you want to be set up to succeed, so you feel like obligated to put a lot of money in and do different things, because you don't want to launch with like a mediocre setup. And so I think being able to understand where to put money and time is really, really important.
Yeah, no, I think that's a lot of what I would change is
Yeah.
the allocation of resources, mental, yeah, cash. Do you think having a minority status has helped you, hurt you in a unique selling point? I'm just curious. I always think that everyone has a different story to tell on that piece of it.
Yeah. I think it just depends on who you're working with. It helps me when I talk to bars and restaurants who like are really intentional, like who want to support local and who want to support minority owned. That's helpful, right? Like we get in those places really quickly. Other places who like their focus isn't on that. They don't really care whether you're local or not. They're just kind of like going through what they think is like the normal. That sometimes can impact us, because like it's like, well, you're giving a large brand you're giving a large brand the opportunity, but you're missing out on like small brands. And like you were a small brand in a small company at one point, so
Right.
there's a disconnect there sometimes. So that hinders us and affects us. I will say too, I've kind of been surprised, because there were a few well-known queer bars and restaurants who didn't want our product in there, and that's telling too. Like I think that people assume we all each other's backs, but that's not necessarily the case. And I'm not going to beg a restaurant or bar owner to get us in there, because if we think it makes sense. But especially for the queer community, where there's a lot of alcohol and drugs in the queer community, and there's this idea that like in the queer community to have a good party and a good time, you have to have all those things. And that's kind of been people kind of have put those two, alcohol and drugs, with queer community together often. And so, but we've kind of learned from, okay, you say that you're for the community and you're queer, but you're not really wanting to buy any of our canned mocktails to have an actual NA option. So it is interesting. I think I've seen it kind of go all over the place and in different directions. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I would only imagine, because I follow a little bit, like the trend is like so much more NA, and like the amount people are drinking is just like going straight down, especially the younger generation. So to me, it'd be like everyone wants your product because they need
Yeah.
something to fill that space.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with you too. I also think there's a lot of people who don't want an NA beer and they don't want like soda with lime juice or lemon juice and
Yes.
cranberry as an option. So I think it's just about who is the individual responsible for ordering for that restaurant. Many people don't really believe in the mocktail space. They think it's silly. And so when I encounter different individuals who are responsible for beverage ordering for their establishment and I have conversations with them, I know pretty quickly if they're for mocktails or not, and that's okay. Like I'm not going to convince them overnight, but I think that they're missing out on at least providing like an opportunity for families, with kids to be able to have an NA option other than just an NA beer. But yeah,
Or people who don't want to drink, can't drink because of a health issue.
yeah,
Like, honestly, sometimes I want like the fun part of the drink. I
yeah,
don't want alcohol. I just want
yeah.
something that isn't water that's kind of fun.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I think, but I think the world is like you can't go to a bar or out or have a social setting without like alcohol, and that's a whole other issue, right? So I think
Well,
like
yeah.
that norm is changing, and people are starting to be creative with events and what things we can do without the use of alcohol. And I think for generations, people have used that as a way to like ease the nerves and anxiety around being social and getting to know people, but like there has to be another way to where we
But
can exist in community without that. Yeah.
it also has the stigma, right? You go to those events and someone isn't drinking, and I've
Yep.
seen it firsthand. People are like, why aren't you drinking? And it's
Yep.
like, I don't want to. And if you don't have NA options, you end up being the person with like the soda water, which looks
That's
like
right.
you're in Alcoholics Anonymous, and you're like, no, I just didn't feel like it tonight. And so
Yep.
to me, it's so refreshing to see so many options because maybe you just don't want to drink tonight because like you've got a big meeting tomorrow and you've realized
Yeah.
it was your sleep because Lord knows you have alcohol, your
Right.
sleep suffers, right? And so
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know if you're
Yeah.
finding that easier to sell then.
Yeah, there's definitely a stigma for sure. We just want people to be able to have equal opportunity to drink whatever they want to drink and not be asked questions. And, to your point, whether you're sober or you had a struggle with alcoholism or whether you just want to break or you're having health issues or you're pregnant or whatever that case is, like it's your business. And I think that, you should be able to enjoy whatever you're drinking. And that's why, we kind of came with this brand to hopefully help change the norm and expectations around that.
I love it. Well, so what's next? What's like the 5 year? I hate 5 year plans. So let's go with 2 year plan for Mockery.
Yeah.
5 years seems too far away.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're growing. We're trying to really like capture the Midwest, and I mean, I'd say Ohio. We're in a few restaurants in Cincinnati. We have a couple of stores like out of state. We try to figure out shipping for. We have some canned mocktails out there, but really just trying to get more into the Cleveland space, Dayton, Cincinnati, and then continuing to be like a well-known face in Columbus. It's great because I feel like Columbus is starting to recognize our brand and like they know who we are now, which is awesome. We have to continue to grow upon that and take advantage of that. I don't think 30 to 40 bars and restaurants is enough. I'd like to be at 50, 75, 100 over the next 2 years, which is probably going to be a big feat because my wife and I, we do all of our sales and distribution on our own. She goes, is door-to-door sales essentially, right? You're going into bars and restaurants and telling your story. They get really excited about it and they believe in what you're doing and they see the work you're doing in the community. They want to continue to sell your product, and so I think we'll continue to grow in that way. I do think that we're looking to potentially get some more seed money involved and kind of present and really go big with some marketing efforts and get out there more as a brand. I think we're close to pivoting into that space, and so I'm working on some things there as well. So yeah, we're really excited about the future. I think we've been really successful and just mindful of cost. Yeah, I think as we continue to do things for the community, like I said, we continue to have partnership opportunities. Like tonight, we have there's a new individual, Nick. I'm opening another business with him, but he opened an event space in Columbus, in downtown Columbus, and we're partnered together. We're doing a poetry event tonight. We're raising money for Huck House and Kaleidoscope, and that's
Amazing.
happening. That's happening tonight at the Valley, which is a new event space on 4th Street. So we'll be there, and obviously proceeds at the door, and for any kind of mocktail sales will go towards those organizations. And yeah, I mean, I think we've been able to really find some great partners in the city based on like the work that we've been doing. So I think there's a lot of growth opportunity. We just have to we have to capture it and make some smart decisions to continue to grow.
It seems like your growth is I don't want to say slow, but it is not rapid growth. You're looking for strategic, long-term growth.
Yeah, I think so. I think so. I think when you go too fast, too quickly, unfortunately, I think you can be in over your head to be able to pay, for those opportunities and to be able to pay for production. And so, but I do think we're getting a lot more orders per week, and so we are like at a pivotal point where like we have to continue to get into other bars and restaurants and look for opportunities to get into retail. And I think we've got some really cool opportunities coming up. So I'm excited. Yeah, I think that the brand speaks for itself as far as the product. I think the product is really strong, and we have to continue to sell, to believe in our product, and we do think it's one of the best ones out there. Just given, I think most of them we've tried over a year and a half, and we feel strongly about that. And I think the responses from those who've tried them have been great too, to support that. So
Yeah, I mean, I know our office is a fan. I think everyone here has had it, and they're like, "What is
yeah,
this?
that's
How do I
awesome.
buy more?" So we're at least an advocate for you.
That's great.
Well, this has been fun. We're getting to the end of time, so I'm gonna just ask you the one last question I ask every guest. If you were talking to someone who was starting a business tomorrow, what's the one piece of advice you would give them?
I think I said it earlier, but I think you just have to be easy on yourself. I also think that like no one's gonna support you like you support yourself. In the beginning, I think it feels personal when friends and family don't believe that you want to be an entrepreneur. But I also think that like the whole world thinks in a certain way, and we're taught early that we have to go out, we have to go to school, we have to get a job, we have to work for another corporation, and like no questions asked, and like we live our whole lives in that way. And so the entrepreneurship journey is really out of the box thinking. And so I think that you have to remember like you're going to be your biggest support and fan, and most people are going to doubt you because it's not the normal. It's like people aren't chasing their actual dreams because they're terrified, right? Because we're taught that you can't do that. You have to like go get a job and follow this path into retirement, and that's not true. And so I think like to be able to force your brain to think differently outside of what we're expected to do is really important. So I would say be easy on yourself, but remember that like your idea and entrepreneurship is a journey that most people won't do, and most people will get old and be reminiscing and thinking, I wish I would have opened this. And like there's so many people who want to pursue it but don't know how, and so you're ahead of the game if you're already pursuing it this time. So yeah, it really is a great journey. It's really hard, but I think it's worth it in the end.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. Well, thank you. This was a lot of fun.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks, Allison. Appreciate it.